Alright, so I just finished watching the brand new Percy Jackson and the Olympian show that was aired on Disney Plus. And if you came here for my review, I'm not really sure why you would come here for my review because I'm not a movie reviewer and I don't really know anything about movie stuff. Despite the fact that I do watch a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows because I love stories. But if you came here to hear what I think, I thought it was about a 6 or 7 out of 10. I thought it was alright. I think in terms of like the VFX and the cinematography in general looked pretty good. And I also really liked that it seemed, as far as I can remember, to follow most of the original plot points from the original books while adding a little bit more context in with flashbacks of when Percy's younger, which I don't really remember too much from the plot. So I think those were all nice additions. However, I felt like sometimes some of the actors' deliveries left something to be desired and some of the acting was okay. But I just think that the set pieces, the visual effects, the cinematography, all in general really good, which I guess is to be expected from a show that was produced by Disney. But I think the thing that really started to take away points for me was the pacing and the action. So much so that it made me start reflecting on the original books I had read so long ago and questioning if I even really liked the book in the first place. Like, it just seemed like things were happening in the show and then they would just go by and pass, and action just seemed to go with quick fights and then that was it. When I was thinking back to the original series, I remember all of these different things and emotions that I felt when I was watching it that just didn't simply carry over into the show. And I think that brings up an interesting point on nostalgia. Like, all of the things that I'm seeing is now filtered through the lens of the colors that I saw as a young child. Those small, little, naive, and powerful emotions of despair, excitement, happiness, fear, all of those things that I remember, and all those times I remember talking about it with my friends and the discussions that we had and those happy moments and those laughs and the class presentations that I did on it all come back when I think of the book. So it sort of clouds what the show actually is. But I think that's just a very cool thing about thinking back to our past. And I think it's just interesting how the things that even just without shows and TVs and books that we read now, everything that we see around us is filtered through the lens of those experiences that we've had, the things we've eaten, the things we've touched, the things we've seen, those small memories that bring back all of these emotions that we feel when we go about our daily lives. So I'm not sure if the show lost points just simply from the fact that I can't be unbiased due to the fact that I love the show, the series, as the books, when I was really young, and I loved them so much. I remember the Heroes of Olympus series came out when I was around 2nd grade, and I spent my whole elementary school years going through those books and reading them. So it's hard for it not to taint the feelings that I had. But I'm also questioning, maybe the books were just like this in the first place, and I'm not simply remembering it correctly. So I kind of want to go back and read it, but at the same time, I don't want to ruin those small childhood memories that I have and the adventures I went with all of these characters. But at the same time, I'm like, the show is just okay for me, so maybe the book really wasn't that great. And then the second thing that I think really brought to my attention why I didn't like the show was the action. And this sort of goes back to like the feelings of being a small kid and the huge imagination that you have. Like, when you're reading a book, I think what's really interesting is like when I was going to high school and I was learning how to write, I often thought that the most important thing is to provide the reader with as much details as possible. You want the reader to get this image transmitted from your brain into theirs, to communicate these complex ideas, these cool set pieces, these powerful fight scenes, all into these words that someone can read and translate into a movie inside of their head. But I also realize now that I've gotten older that a lot of art in general, like especially with music and reading and writing, is not so much about what's there, but the space that's left in between. And when you write things, rather than giving all the details that's possible, the author can't simply do that. So instead, they give us these little pieces of information and our brain fills in the rest. Like, we're taking these little pieces of the world and constructing a whole new world for us. So when I'm reading the book when I was younger, when they have a fight scene, I'm like, punch, punch, weave, 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 punch, 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 weave, 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 and it's so crazy. Cool power blast, bit, you know, all of that stuff is happening. And in the show, it's like you see these fight scenes and they're just not the same as what they were when I was younger. It just seems like nothing is going to live up to that. And I think it's very hard because when we're reading these books, we have the opportunity as the reader to become the director. We get to choose the camera angles. We get to choose the lighting. We get to choose who's cast as the character. We get to choose how it's choreographed. We get to choose the set pieces, and all of those things added with the information that the author gives allows us to construct the perfect movie inside of our brains. And that can't be, or it's very, very hard, a very high bar to live up to in order to surpass the ideas of the own director. Like, to surpass what people think is the best version is going to be very difficult to overcome. So I think that's just a really cool thing about writing, that it allows us, the reader, to get some ideas on things, but it also means that it's very hard to adapt things from books into movies. But even with that, I'm thinking back to the show, maybe some spoilers ahead, but I remember when I was reading the book, I don't exactly remember how it's done, I don't remember all of the nuances of the actual story, but I remember how I felt when I read that Luke was the lightning thief. And here, I just did not get those same emotions. It felt to me that it just sort of happened. Like, one scene, it's a celebration that Percy has finished his quest, and then the next scene, it's like, oh, it's Luke, and then, small battle, and then it's over, and it cuts to the next scene. And that just didn't really feel very dramatic to me. Like, I'm thinking about some other shows I've watched recently that I think did a really good job executing sort of that twist type of villain, the type of villain that we weren't expecting. Like, for example, let's take Invincible. In the first episode of Invincible, they already revealed to you that Omni-Man is the bad guy. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we get the reveal at the end. Because now that we know he's a bad guy, all throughout the entire series, we're being very, very critical of everything he does. He raises his voice. He moves a little bit too quickly. He starts floating off the ground. Just even very simple things. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, what is he about to do? Is he going to kill someone? Is he going to hurt someone? And it makes you so tense the entire series. You're not sure. You think he's like unstable. And when we get the reveal at the end, it allows us to confirm our beliefs, but it even goes above and beyond what even we could imagine. And I think that's an excellent way to make a villain that you weren't expecting, because you're tense the whole time. It builds up this emotion, and then when you finally get your answers, you're not only satisfied, but you're also terrified because you didn't realize the extent of how far it went. Another example of this is with Attack on Titan. The first reveal, and this show has so many great reveals, but one of the first reveals that you get is the reveal of the female Titan. And I think this is executed so well, because all throughout the show they're leaving hints on who it is. They're letting you know, oh, this is who the person is. But you can't be 100% sure because they haven't revealed it to the audience yet. So you're sitting there putting these pieces together, and maybe you figure out, maybe you don't. But then, and I think it's season 1, episode 23, they just start the episode with the character who is the villain. And immediately you're tense because all your suspicions have now been confirmed, because why are they showing you? Why are they giving you background on this character? They must be an important person. It must be the character that you are going to be revealed as the bad guy. But now we get the similar effect as with Omni-Man, because now we have this tension building. Everything they do, we're looking with a very fine lens. We're really magnifying everything they do, and everything makes us tense. And I think one thing that's so incredibly done in this episode is the use of the juxtaposition of the characterization that they've done throughout the show. Now, for someone to smile and to laugh and to be happy, that's not really out of character for anybody to do. It's just things that humans do. But when a character is characterized as someone who's always grumpy, who's downtrodden, who's sad, who just does things because they have to do things and they don't really do it for any kind of motivation, when they do something that's out of character, it's very shocking. And in this moment, when all this tension's been building in the episode and the main characters finally confront the bad guy, this is you're the female Titan, and they just let out a laugh, it is absolutely terrifying, because you know things are about to go absolutely ham in the next episode. And when I think about these things, it just doesn't compare to what I saw in Percy Jackson. I'm trying to think, like, is the book like this, or is it just how they paced the show and how the action came out, because they're trying to produce something that we all have had in our imaginations for so long into something that's real, and that's very hard to live up to. So anyways, I don't really have much more to say, but I think the show was pretty good. I don't think it was terrible. I would recommend watching, especially if you're a fan, to actually see the characters come to life. But at the same time, I think maybe this is a warning that we should be careful when we try and adapt things, because it's very difficult to adapt these beloved childhood ideas into something that's real, because we've built up such a grand image of it, tainted by the colors of our thoughts, tainted by our own imagination, and to sort of make something that doesn't live up to that can be a little bit disappointing. So I'm just hoping that with the new Avatar show, it doesn't end up being absolutely terrible, and we can have a genuinely good experience with that. But they're saying some crazy stuff right now before the show comes out, so we'll see how that turns out. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Did you like the show? Did it live up to your expectations with the original series? Or maybe you're feeling a little bit like me, who's overthinking it a little bit too much and comparing it to our own grandeur of imagination. So that's pretty much all I have to say for today. So see you later. Bye.